these are people who are kind of passionless. The apathetic, like Saul's army, all right? They kind of saw Jonathan as moving too fast. You know, if we had been around during that time and see Jonathan going up that cliff with just a sword and his armor bearer, 20 guys up there waiting for him, they knew, remember, they let them see us. They're climbing up. Everybody would be saying, hey, that's moving before God, ahead of God. Don't do that. That's moving too fast. You see, that's the way it looks to us who are apathetic. Okay? We're standing still, so of course it's going to look like they're going at blinding speeds. But while we're under our pomegranate tree, it's those with the J factor who have passion. People under the pomegranate tree are passionless. What really caused the shift in attitude was Saul's passion. If this had been anyone but Saul's son, I really wonder if Saul would have been moved at all. I really wonder about that. The situation wasn't any different, but the stakes had changed. Now, this is my son. And that's the power of passion. Jonathan's actions fueled Saul's passion. And that ignited the whole army. So, no more apathy. Here's another group of people. The rebellious. This divine moment, part of the aftershock, was reclaiming these rebellious folks. Now these people are not standing still like the apathetic. They're movement. Rebels are movers. Okay? They're just doing the wrong thing. Now look what it says here in verse 21. Those Hebrews who had previously been with the Philistines and had gone up with them to their camp went back to the Israelites. Now that's amazing to me. We thought Jonathan and the armor bearer were the only Israelites headed toward the Philistines. No, there were Israelites who had gone over. See, some people want to be on the right side for the right reasons. There's other people that want to be on the right side just because they're the winning team. They just want to win. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. These Israelites were not being like our kids can be. You know, we're sitting down watching a football game. You know, and let's say it's Tennessee and Georgia. All right, and the kids are going, go Georgia, go Georgia. And then Tennessee starts winning and the kids go, go Tennessee, go Tennessee. I want to vote for Tennessee now because they're winning. That's an immature thing that you would expect out of little kids. But the Israelites knew God. They came out of this group that were taking the promised land. They knew what God wanted, and they're fighting against the purposes of God just to be on the winning side. Wow. Wow, that's amazing to me. They're on the inside of the Israel army or camp or people, and they're still rebellious. I know people in the Christian faith that are rebellious. Some of them are very rebellious. Actually, that's our whole problem. Adam and Eve rebelled against God, and that's what started the whole thing. So we got a little bit of it in all of us. But you can really tell these people who are in religion but not transforming, you can recognize them by the fact that they're always looking for loopholes. We can recognize it in ourselves. We're always looking for that justification, the loophole. There was a woman and her sister in my office once. This was multiple days we've gone through this. The woman was having trouble with her marriage. The sister brought her. I knew both of them. I knew the sister better, but I knew both of them pretty well. And one day, the woman said, you know, I ran into this old boyfriend of mine, kind of a sweetheart, high school sweetheart thing. And she asked me, she said, do you think this is a sign from God that I should leave my husband and go with this sweetheart? And I'm thinking, okay, I didn't use the term back then, but it was a divine moment for me. It was I going to jump in or not? And I thought, well, I could get out of this pretty easily. I could make up some reason to get out of this, but I guess I'm feeling like I should say this, so I'll jump. And I said to her, I said, you're a Christian. And are you saying that you can't see that this is contrary to the way God would be thinking? You can't see that? I continued on and I said, you're just looking for loopholes. You're just looking for excuses. And because I knew that both these ladies were really radical. They were radical folks. They're real opinionated and radical about everything they did. And I asked her, I said, you're radical about everything. Why don't you get radical about your faith? Because she knew what God had to say about this. And there was an aftershock to that. Now, I'm not taking any credit for it because, I thought I was crazy for saying it. The woman I told it to was very silent when I said it. I think maybe the sister may have enjoyed me saying it, but I don't know. But there was an aftershock, and that aftershock was that there was a more solid marriage eventually. Because you know what happened? This woman was reminded of who she is and who Jesus is and what the Word says. She was reminded of that. And so it's kind of like that with divine moments. Not only are the faithful unleashed, not only are the apathetic ignited, but often we find that prodigals, rebels, are restored. Jonathan's actions, which led to Saul and his army jumping in, also caused those who walked away from God, deliberately walked away from God, caused them to come back. That's huge. You know how guilty people feel when they walk away from God and know it? But divine moments can bring them back. There's one more group who brought up the rear, and that was the broken. The broken can be described as dysfunctional. They're emotionally and spiritually broken, and they're unable to live a life of freedom. I call them the phobia folks. Phobia folks. The people that walk in here. Because we're all broken. We're all messed up in some way. I mean, here's these guys in our story. They're hiding in caves. They're cowering in fear. And they're watching God move in Jonathan's life. I'm sure that they must have also felt guilt. It was all heaping up on them. I should be out helping, but I'm too scared. And all this was revealing their bad character. They're not the only ones with bad character. When we're fearful, when we're messed up, when we're dysfunctional, our bad character shows through. And that's why God uses these challenges we face to build up our character, to shape it. Divine moments compel us to live differently. And this different life that we're called to live requires us to become different. These broken people, they didn't step up. And we tend to look at them like, gosh, how could they do that? But guess what? They eventually did. They in the end rose up. Even though they were hiding from the realities of life, they rose up and joined the battle. And they didn't just join halfway. It says that they joined the battle in hot pursuit. Hot pursuit. Let's go get them. Isn't that the way it is with churches? I hope that's the way it is around here. I'm sure that in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, I wish a whole bunch of people that really have it together would join our church. Come in, just the real movers and shakers. They have lots of resources. They're smart. But a lot of times we get people like you. And me. And me. We're broken. We're messed up. We don't have it all together. But this is part of the power and blessing of the church. The church brings us to a place where we are individually and collectively healing, being healed. We're getting better. When the church moves with God, broken people are drawn to God. Jesus even said, I didn't come for the righteous, I came for the sick. Who's sick? We're all sick. We're all messed up. Jesus came for us. Listen to this passage. That Jesus goes to church one day. All right? And it's his turn to read Scripture. And out of all the passages he could pick, this is what he reads. The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to preach the good news to the poor. He sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to release the oppressed. Okay, right after that, another place, he said this to some followers of John the Baptist who were expressing John's doubts about the validity of Jesus' ministry. He said to them, go back to John and tell them what you've seen and heard. The blind see, the lame walk, the lepers are cured, the deaf hear, the dead are raised to life, and the good news is being preached to the poor. Everywhere Jesus went, with every person who followed him, people got better. People got better. I question myself all the time, if I'm not getting better spiritually, am I following Christ? Am I a true disciple who's loving God, connecting with his people, serving the church and reaching out to the world? If I'm not getting better, am I following Christ? So it shouldn't surprise us that in the end, if we seize divine moments, people should be healed. We should be healed. Other people that are sucked into that divine moment should get healed. Remember, we're magnifying the presence and the power of God when we move into a moment. Well, the story closes with this last thought. So the Lord rescued Israel that day, and the battle moved on beyond Beth Aven. No matter how dramatic a divine moment may be, no matter its impact, even if we can look back on the amazing experience we've just encountered, we must never forget that the battle moves on, keeps on going. With the end of each day comes a promise of another day. Even while we celebrate the last moment's victory, we begin the new moment's journey. It just doesn't stop. It keeps going. You know, there's times where I can, on a Sunday afternoon, I can kind of bask in this divine experience we've had in some of our Sunday celebrations here. It could be anything, a song, or the way the music flowed, or the message, or a prayer. Maybe it's somebody saying, I learned this from the Bible. Something like that. And I'm basking in that moment, and there's something in the back of my head that always makes me remember a quote from Nancy Beach. Nancy Beach is a program director at a huge church, thousands of people. She said, next Sunday comes with ruthless regularity. Now, if you've been in any kind of programming where you have to program something all the time, like a Sunday service, or at work, maybe you're a program manager. There's somebody over there who's a program manager. You know what it's like to have that. You're oh, that was so great. Oh, but I've got to get ready for next week. You just can't even stay there very long. I can relate to that. And sometimes you get a little worn out. But take a rest, because what we need after the moment's over is fresh energy. Anticipation for the next one. We have to believe that it's going to be another moment. We've already seen God move, so it should be a little easier to get into the next one. You guys know what to do now. After 5 weeks, 6 weeks, you know what to do. First, take initiative. Second, you know who God is. Kind of embrace the uncertainties of life. Third thing, remember the person you are becoming in Christ. And fourthly, consider that every great adventure is filled with peril and danger, but it's worth the risk to advance.